How do you do scenario planning? Well, it doesn't have to be rocket science. As we saw in the second video, it's about taking a particular situation and looking at it from different perspectives. We can start to then go even deeper and say, what are the opportunities and threats that sit in each of those different worlds? And out of those, we can address the threats strategically, and we can also look at the opportunities and say, well, which ones do we want to take advantage of that our competitors may not even be seeing because they may not be doing this scenario planning work.
One of the benefits that's talked about with scenario planning is this idea of shared sense making. Everyone is reading their own articles, whether that's on more credible sources or whether that's on social media where there's a lot of misinformation flying around.
At the time, things were moving so quickly, like the amount of information we were getting, the amount of media and news reports coming out, it was really challenging to try and process all that information, and it really felt like I felt like I was drowning.
There was just so much information as well happening everywhere, and it was really hard to get an idea of what actually was going on. And so having the opportunity to collect all of the information and opinion that was out there and sort it into a logical kind of framework that you could use to understand, well, what is actually happening and what might that lead to in the future?
Yeah, it probably surprised me a little bit just how much information there was. And I think that working collaboratively and bouncing ideas off one another is really useful. I think if we'd all been asked to provide input in our own right without throwing ideas around together, it would have been quite different.
So this was all done when we were all working from home at the time. So like many people in the world, Zoom became a big part of our lives. So you bring everyone together on Zoom, and we actually did it. A number of people were in the office together. Some people were at home, some people were in the Sydney office. Anyone who's worked with me in the past will know I'm a lover of mind mapping. There's a technology that we use called AUA. That really helped us as a communication tool, as a framework for thinking, building timelines. So it's quite a creative piece of software, but the templates were key because it was all online, they were able to dive straight in and populate them. We do like to espouse one of our values as being collaborative, and that required a lot of collaboration to pull that together and get everyone to sort of work on it. So the lucky country was the best world, and the idea of that one was that you had really the best economic and property market outcome that was feasible, and also the best pandemic outcome that was feasible. And one thing we subsequently learned is you can't just look at Australia as a whole, you obviously have to look at it on a state-by-state level, and WA certainly would feel like it has been the lucky country. The next world was the Corona bus, with this idea of it's a bus and you've got to get on it. But that's a world where the pandemic is out there, and it's not the worst outcome of the pandemic, but you actually have a almost surprisingly good economic world. I would say New South Wales has been a great example of that. The House of Cards was the third world we looked at, and the idea of that was that there was a lot of fragility already there in the system, and it just got exposed through COVID. The pandemic's actually managed, but the economy and the property market really suffered. That world may emerge because we're yet to really come out and see the full impact of the sort of stimulus measures. The harshest world was the COVID winter, where you have a bad outcome on both the economy and the pandemic. Australia seems to have been spared from, but obviously there are COVID winters around the world at the moment.
Although no one scenario played out, several different items in the different worlds we looked at did play out, and so for me it felt like we were in much greater control.
A lot of scenarios that you might have thought were going to be negative in all respects actually had a lot of positives and a lot of opportunities to them, which if you didn't look into them in detail you wouldn't have known.